Check 1. Check 2. Check 3.
Donna? Oh, already lit.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, it's so nice to get a response. Unfortunately, today the projector is ill today. So we will be singing our opening song without words. However, they are fairly straightforward, so I'm hopeful that you will remember them. I'll try to call out the next verse each time we do it. Our opening song today is I'm Gonna Lift My Sister Up by Fea Ora Rose Touré. Your interesting fact about Fea today is that she is founder of the National Voting Rights Museum, the McRae Learning Center, the Ancient Africa Slavery and Civil War Museum, the Bridge Crossing Jubilee, and the 21st Century Youth Leadership Movement and the Black Arts and Culture Center. So she has founded an amazing number of cultural organizations in the United States, especially ones devoted to civil rights with her activism work. So let's make sure I have the lyrics. Okay. I'm going to lift my sister up. Last week, we talked about how there's a part where if I don't lift her up, and we do some clapping. So I'll try to lead that today without the words behind me. So let's go here. I'm gonna lift my sister up. She is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up. She is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up. She is not heavy. If I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, I will fall down. Now, neighbor, I'm gonna lift my neighbor up. They are not heavy. I'm gonna lift my neighbor up. They are not heavy. I'm gonna lift my neighbor up. They are not heavy. If I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, I will fall down. Brother, I'm gonna lift my brother up. He is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my brother up. He is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my brother up. He is not heavy. If I don't lift him up, if I don't lift him up, if I don't lift him up, I will fall down. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Bienvenue à la première congrégation unitarienne d'Ottawa. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or watching from wherever you may be, you are welcome. I am Alex Campbell, and I'm very pleased that Reverend Eric invited me to take his pulpit this morning. This is Groundhog Day. I don't know if Wirt and Willie saw his shadow or not, and I don't know whether we're going to have an early spring or not, but I do know that as from today, there are 1,448 days to go to the end of the Trump administration. Bear with me for a moment. That means that we still have 1,448 days to endure as the lying, dishonest, divisive, misogynist, neo-fascist, Mussolini-esque, Truton mimic, dictator and convicted felon Trump implements the punitive, cruel, vindictive Project 2025, along with his cacostocracy of sycophants, aided by billionaire oligarchs. A project which has already detrimentally and drastically affected the lives of millions of people, Americans and immigrants alike, and we Canadians as well, with the imposition of 25% tariffs on Canadian goods. It's also bad, it's also sad. And now you know where I stand. In these dark times, my dear friends, we need hope. We grow in hope by embracing interdependency and interconnectedness. Our hope is not rooted in some fleeting optimism, but in the enduring truths of our faith, grounded in our principles, especially our search for truth and meaning.
And before we go any further, I'm going to invite Nancy from our board to come up with this morning's announcements.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry, Nancy.
That's okay, Alex. I didn't walk fast enough. You didn't notice me. Bonjour tout le monde.
Join us on Saturday, February 8th for a fun congregational potluck to welcome our sponsor, newcomer Landry and Elvis to Canada. We'll gather in the fellowship hall from 5 to 8 p.m., and all ages are welcome. Please bring a main course or a dessert to share. Label it with the ingredients. Please be sure to RSVP to the refugee sponsorship team by February 6th at the refugee at FirstUnitarianOttawa.ca or at the welcome table in the back with Brent, so we will know how to set the room up. The refugee team is looking for donated laptops for Elvis and Audrey, and also for people to help them learn to practice English. See Brent or Eva, still in the back, or send them an email at refugee@firstunitarianottawa.ca if you're willing to help. Are you new or feeling new? Sorry. Then plan to attend our upcoming session introducing ourselves on Tuesday, February 11th, starting at 7 p.m. You can find out more and register at the welcome table or by emailing welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. Now, be sure to stop by the Ajaski Makerspace table in Falshul after the service to check out the gifts they have available for their Valentine's Day sale. All proceeds go to help support the Ajaski Indigenous Reconciliation Program. And finally, the not-so-fun news. I have been a member at large for the last 18 months. It has been lovely. However, for family and personal reasons, I decided to resign my position. The nominating committee will be responsible for nominating someone to replace me at the AGM later this spring. Thank you, everyone.
Yes. Just want to lock this down. I don't know if it's locked or not. We don't want the pulpit.
We've got a roving pulpit.
There.
That's unlocked, I think.
Okay. It should be down. Okay.
Yeah, it's back.
There. Okay. We're ready. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. I'm Lisa, your worship associate this morning. Let us begin our day with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory, and that the work of reconciliation is a responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all those who have the willingness to understand, to be of service to those at risk, and to advocate for justice.
Now, if you could all please take your grey hymnals and turn to page number 443. I'm going to ask those on my left to read the full text, and those on my right to read the italic text. And we'll start with number 443, and we'll start with an antiphon. How rare it is, how lovely this fellowship of those who meet together. We arrive, number 4, we arrive out of many singular rooms, walking over the vanishing streets.
And then the advance to be assured that brothers and sisters surround us to restore their images in our eyes.
We enlarge our voices in common, speaking and singing.
We try again that solitude found in the midst of those who with us seek their hidden reckonings.
Our eyes reclaim the remembered faces, their voices stir the surrounding air.
The warm
This is the reason of cities, of homes, of assemblies, and the houses of worship.
It is good to be with one another.
All right. Let's join our voices in song once more. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together, "Where is Our Holy Church?" Hymn number 113 in our gray hymnal. And the lyrics will not be on the screen today. As the health challenges continue, do take care and take advantage of online opportunities at FirstU to stay in touch. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. And if you are right here in Worship Hall with us this morning and would like more information about FirstU, it is available at the welcome table at the back of the pews, and Brent is there to greet you today. We encourage you to sign up to receive the EUU, our weekly email newsletter. Sign-up information is available on our website under the Communications tab and as a QR code on the back of the printed programs that you have. Check our Facebook and Instagram pages and our website for notices and updates. Our calendar continues to be as full as ever, though some of our activities do take place online. This morning, each of us is welcome. We, of any heritage or faith, whatever our burdens, of any culture or race, of any gender or orientation, in any body. We are all that we are. Today, we are all a part of this spiritual community.
To begin our morning's reflection on our fourth principle, we light our chalice this morning to these words of welcome from Christine Robinson. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. we light this beacon of hope, a sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together.
And also these words by Jean M. Olson, Materializing. In what form did the Spirit appear to you today? In the blossom of a flower, the tug of a child's hand, the silent twinkling stars, an old woman smiling at the bus stop, a lover's gentle hug. A presence so close to your soul that you could almost touch it. Words of truth formed unbidden in your mind. The holy disguised as in so many ways. May your senses open wide in recognition. Our chalice is lit. Come, let us worship together. And as we begin, we'll start. Let's begin with singing the chalice song.
Chalice, chalice, burning bright, help remind us with your light of all we'd like to live each day, with love and truth helping lead the way.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jody McIntosh, the Director of Religious Exploration, and I have a little story for you this morning. So I invite all young and young at heart, if you would like to gather here with me. So today, I have 2 candles. And I have these 2 candles today because I am grateful for our 4th principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Or as the children may have heard it, we search for what is true. Freedom and responsibility are 2 really big words, aren't they? Well, first let's talk about freedom. As a Unitarian, freedom means that we get to form our own beliefs and decide what's true for us. That's the free part of our search for truth and meaning. Next, let's consider responsibility. Even when we think we know or believe something, we get to question it and even change our mind if we want to. This is the responsible part of our search for what is true. Unitarians try to keep an open mind and allow new information to reshape what we believe is true. I'm going to light this candle, this first candle, in thanks for the freedom to search for what is true. Now I'm going to light this second candle for, actually, this candle looks oddly delicious. What? It looked delicious and I skipped breakfast. Does anyone want to say what just happened? What did I just do? Did I just eat a candle? Are you sure? By a show of hands, how many people here thought I was holding 2 candles? Okay. How many of you think that I just ate a real candle? One thing I love about being a Unitarian is that we get to form our own beliefs and decide what's true for us. That's the free part of searching for truth and meaning. Another thing I love about being a Unitarian is that even when we think we know what we believe, we get to question it and even change our minds. A lot of you believed that I was holding 2 candles until I ate one. Then you had to question that belief, and maybe someone even guessed that one of my candles wasn't real. It was actually made from a radish, and it was very tasty. That's the responsible part of our search for truth. Unitarians try to keep an open mind and allow new information to reshape what we believe is true. Thank you for exploring the 4th principle with me. Keep questioning, keep an open mind, and don't be afraid to change your beliefs. Thank you. We will now sing Our Children on Our Way, and as per our tradition, if you would like to make an arch, we will exit that way. And all these children will be in the Rainbow Room, room 4.
Beneath our arms we shelter you. You warm our hearts as you pass through. May our love guide you as you go, to help you learn and help you grow.
Thank you, Jody, for that delightful story. Each week, we pause in our time together in recognition of the joys and sorrows in our lives and across the globe. We honor our celebrations and challenges by placing a stone in a bowl of water. As the ripples extend outward, imagine them continuing beyond these small bowls, out through and past our pews, out into the larger community of all. We didn't have any specific stone requests today. However, I would like to put a stone in, which I'll do in a minute, stone of sorrow for the tragedies that have taken place in the sky this week. And also a stone of sorrow, but maybe other emotions for what has transpired in the last 24 hours with the tariffs being imposed upon Canada. So you may be feeling all kinds of feelings, and so we want to honor those feelings. I invite you now to come forward to honor the joys and sorrows that you hold by placing a stone or stones in the water. And that last stone was a stone for all that we are holding in our heart, joys, sorrows. We have one caring card today, and if you wish to sign it, it is at the back of the pews. And the caring card is for Ian Hill. Some of you may remember that Ian was an interim minister with us during COVID. And they did a number of services online. They also facilitated a 9-week program exploring the song that we close all of our services with, Spirit of Life. They are currently a minister in Tallahassee, Florida. And so we send our thoughts and hold them in our heart with all of the changes that are potentially going to happen in the United States. And so even if you don't know them, this is a way for us to extend our care on behalf of those who gave much of their hearts to this community. And having both done the workshop with Ian and co-facilitated with them in one service, I can attest that they gave a big chunk of their heart to this congregation. And so they're in our thoughts. Let us move into a time of stillness and reflection, and after several moments, Jen will bring us back through the gift of music. Our reading this morning is from Reverend Paige Getty from the UU congregation in Columbia, Maryland. As responsible religious seekers, we recognize that we are privileged to be free, to have resources to pursue life beyond mere survival, to continually search for truth and meaning, to exist beyond bounds of dogma and oppression, and to wrestle freely with truth and meaning as they evolve. This privilege calls us not to be isolated and self-centered, believing that our single perspective trumps all others, pardon the pun, but rather to be humble, to be open to the great mysteries of truth and meaning that life offers. And those mysteries may speak to us through our own intuition and experience, but also through tradition, community, conflict, nature, and relationships. As a faith tradition, Unitarian Universalism makes sacred the right and the responsibility to engage in this free and responsible quest as an act of religious devotion. Institutionally, we have left open the questions of what truth and meaning are, acknowledging that mindful people will, in every age, discover new insights. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our guest speaker this morning. Alex Campbell has been a member of the Unitarian congregation for a couple of decades now. He is a resident at Unitarian House, is a wonderful singer in our choir, and he's here to give us his wisdom this morning, which is always wonderful. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you, Lisa. My reflection this morning is divided into two hopefully connected parts, both in the context of history. Part one. As some of you may know, I was born in Durban, South Africa, and this year I celebrated my 84th anniversary of birth on January the 15th, the same day as Martin Luther King Jr. was born in 1929. Had he lived, he would have been 95 this year. January 15th also saw the announcement of a negotiated ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, 15 months after that genocidal war began. I've always been a history buff. In primary school, I loved learning about the Crusades and the various English and European wars. At university, I studied economic history, which really whetted my appetite. Then in the seminary, I relished the study of medieval history and church history, and I enjoyed very much the history of philosophy. Being one who loves history and enjoys seeing how events affect each other and point to future possibilities, as a matter of interest, I consulted my UU history to see what significance January the 15th might have had. I discovered that John Biddle, the so-called father of Unitarianism in England, was born on January the 14th, 1615. And that on January the 15th, 39 years later, a committee of the British Parliament recommended that he stand trial for heresy, which was a capital offense in those days. This aroused my curiosity, and I did some more reading about this amazing man's life. So much so that I think it worthwhile to share with you this morning something about this Unitarian hero. Now, at this stage, if our screen was working, you'd see a picture of John Biddle on the screen. John was born the son of a tailor in Gloucestershire on January the 14th, 1615. As with all birthdays, his was filled with possibility and hope. Outstandingly bright, he graduated from Magdalen Hall, Oxford, with an MA when he was only 23 years old. He took up a position as master and then headmaster of a grammar school in Gloucester. He believed in applying reason to religious questions rather than accepting authority. Because the school had links to Gloucester Cathedral, he was obliged to teach his pupils according to the Catechism of the Anglican Church. He didn't like this one bit. So he immersed himself in the study of the Bible. He concluded from his studies that the doctrine of the Trinity was not supported by the Bible, and he set about publishing his own views on the nature of God. Like many who read the scriptures critically, his unorthodox views got him into a lot of trouble. Biddle was in prison 6 times for his faith, being caught up in the religious turmoil in England during the 17th century. He published what was called his twofold catechism, which was described as the most radical attack on Orthodox Christianity ever to have appeared in England. He also published several articles from Polish Unitarians on the use of reason in religion. Fully confident of his intellectual powers, Biddle published controversial tracts and engaged in public discussions while scathingly dismissing his opponents he said, deluded themselves and others with, quote, brain-sick notions that have neither sap nor sense in them, unquote. He was betrayed to a parliamentary commission and was jailed, the first of many times, for his heresy. In 1647, the House of Commons declared that Biddle's work was blasphemous, and in September that year it was ordered that his books be burnt by the common hangman, signifying that his publication was a criminal and a capital offense. He gathered a small religious society that met every Sunday for worship. This is regarded as the first avowedly anti-Christian, anti-Trinitarian church in Britain, and as such, John Biddle has been called the father of Unitarianism in England. But it should be noted, he didn't use the word Unitarian. That name had yet to be coined as a more descriptive, less polemical alternative to Socinian, which is what those who didn't believe in the Trinity were called in Europe at that time, the Socinians. Biddle spent much of the rest of his life either in prison for his heretical opinions or out on bail awaiting interrogation and trial. In October 1655, Oliver Cromwell, the Lord Protector, personally saved Biddle from execution by banishing him to the Scilly Isles, which were out of the jurisdiction of any hostile English Parliament. 3 years later, in 1658, he returned to London and resumed his ministry. He presided over a small group of disciples who met regularly in London, but the restoration of the monarchy under Charles II in 1660 and the reinstatement of the Church of England posed a new threat. In June 1662, he and his followers were arrested and imprisoned. His friends were fined £20 each and released. He was fined £100 and ordered to be kept in prison until the money was paid. Now, in 1662, 100 English pounds was worth roughly 13,000 English pounds today, or 23,519 Canadian dollars. And with that money, he could have purchased 12 horses or 53 cows, and it was the equivalent of the wages for 2,000 skilled tradesmen. Needless to say, John couldn't pay his £100 fine. He died within 5 weeks on September the 22nd, 1662, as a result of disease contracted in prison. He was only 47 years old. But his influence lived on long afterwards through his disciples and the reprints of his many writings. In fact, Parliament's actions against Biddle actually drew attention to his writings. Following in his footsteps, the first congregation in England to call itself Unitarian was founded in London in 1774. As a reformer of religion, John Biddle's aim in all his efforts was to promote holiness of life and manners. He valued not so much his doctrines for speculation, but for practice. What you do is more important than what you think. And he called upon his hearers to practice the truth as well as to study to find it. And so today, I recall and celebrate the life of a true hero of the deep way, as he was called, a martyr to relentless not knowing, who challenges us to take the path of honesty in heart and mind to wherever it may go. He was an exemplar of what would later become our fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And for this, I celebrate John Biddle. Part 2, our fourth principle. Now, at this stage, there was going to be another slide up on the screen. We all know that we Unitarian Universalists have a set of principles by which we try to live our lives. I once saw these expressed as an archway with pillars representing our first and seventh principles: the inherent worth and dignity of each person, the one arch; the respect for the independent web of existence of which we all part, the other arch. And the other principles link these two arches. On the one side, we have the second and third principles: justice and equity and compassion in our relationships, acceptance of one another and encouragement to our mutual spiritual growth. On the other hand, we have the right to conscience and the use of the democratic process, and the goal of world community and peace, liberty and justice for all. So you see the two pillars and two stones on top of each of those pillars. And right in the middle, we have the keystone, which locks all the other stones together in place, This is our fourth principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. If you'd seen the screen, you would have understood what I'm trying to say. This principle, the fourth principle that holds all the other principles together, is the one that ties all together, is the basis for our personal spirituality that infuses all the other principles. The personal truth and meaning that we drive at determines the way in which we act, behave, and do the other principles. What we do to respect others with justice, equity, and compassion. What we do in expressing our right of conscience and in carrying out the democratic process. What we do in bringing about a world of peace, freedom, and justice for all. What we do, our behavior that shows our respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And to complete this archway analogy, I believe that our newly articulated eighth principle, a commitment to work towards a diverse, multicultural community, dismantling racism and other oppressions, is like the groundwork on which the arch stands. What we attempt to do as we try to fulfill the potential of the other principles. Once again, this is all informed by our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Not too many of us here this morning are born Unitarian Universalists. Most of us have traveled different paths to find our own truth and meaning in the Unitarian Universalist movement. Like you, perhaps, I left my faith of origin to find what resonated and made sense to me. As many of you know, I was born and baptized a Roman Catholic, a Christian. For many years I worked in a church, and when I came to Canada and married Marlene, we worked together for church and religious renewal for many years. We gradually became disillusioned with what was happening in the church, the child abuse scandals and cover-ups, the bad treatment of women and the LGBTQ2+ community, and the retrogressive papacies of the Polish and German popes were all particularly disturbing to us. Marlene took a hiatus for a few years, but I continued going to Sunday worship in my Catholic parish. Maybe it says something about my so-called Catholic guilt. Then we attended 2 weddings here at FirstU, the weddings of Doug and Pat McDonald and Barry and Jennifer Reed. We were very impressed, especially with the 7 principles and the 6 sources that we read in a pamphlet in the pews. They weren't printed on the beautiful banners we have hanging here in our church today. Marlene started to attend services as a friend, and I continued to attend the Catholic parish. After a while, Marlene became a member, and I would join her after attending worship in the Catholic parish. We were both very impressed with the welcoming community, with the wonderful, challenging sermons of Reverend Brian Kopke. My disillusionment in the parish grew, and I came to the point of not being able to proclaim some of the tenets of the creed. And so I eventually stopped attending worship in the parish and came here for the Sunday service. I was amazed at the welcome I received and the valuing of my past ministry and experience. I was soon put to work, and I joined the congregation. I had spent most of my life as a Roman Catholic, and I still have a strong emotional attachment to the religion. I have a great admiration for Pope Francis, and still have many Catholic friends and friends in the priesthood and the oblates. As the saying goes, I guess once a Catholic, always a Catholic. Once a Jew, always a Jew. You get the idea. But for many Unitarians coming from other religions where creedal statements were required for belonging, the fourth principle can be a breath of fresh air. The free and responsible search for truth and meaning promotes diversity in our congregations. Whether we are Christians or Jews, atheists or agnostics, Buddhists or Hindus, secular humanists or pagans, we all are encouraged as Unitarian Universalists to follow our own unique spiritual path and to create our own belief system, whether we believe in a God or not. There are some who do this in their own through an introspective process. They reflect on the various life experiences and come to a rational understanding of who they are in relation to the rest of reality and the world around them. Others prefer a more formal approach in their search for truth and meaning. And we have a course here at FirstU designed just for that. It's called UU Build Your Own Theology course. And it guides searchers in their spiritual journeys. Members use their life experience and sharing within the group to craft their own statement of belief. This statement or creed, however, is not a fixed dogma, but it is an exercise within time, as changeable as life itself. Participation in the group balances the relationship between the individual and the beloved community. And this process affirms and promotes the fourth principle and gives participants an experience of covenant and deep sharing. Whether done privately or in formal group setting, such an experiential search is important for our sense of well-being and spiritual contentment. Our personal journey happens side by side with other seekers after spiritual truth. The important point here is that we are not all the same. We have responsibility to each other to honor our differences, to reserve judgment on what we don't understand, and to be open to a wide range of beliefs. For instance, in my own personal search for truth and meaning as a Christian Unitarian, I look to the fourth source for guidance, Jewish and Christian teachings which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as we love ourselves. More specifically, I'm guided by the teachings of Jesus in the Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount, and his example of inclusiveness and compassion and justice, and his lived nonviolence, and his fearless speaking of truth to power. Having said that, I don't expect those here who may be secular humanists, atheists, or agnostics to agree with me. Not at all. I must say, too, that our Unitarian Universalist faith considers both science and myth. As such, while my search for truth and meaning is focused on the teachings of Jesus, which some here may call a myth, it also considers very deeply the scientific writings of people like Teilhard de Chardin and the new cosmology of folk like Brian Swimme and Thomas Berry. And as frequent flyers of the Ottawa Heart Institute, Marlene and I rely heavily on the ongoing scientific innovations in our healthcare system here in Canada. Acceptance of one another can be challenging at times. However, if we are to breathe life into our faith, we must overcome our own prejudice and resistance to diversity. As UU Minister Paul D. Daniel says, quote, "It is a stony road we trod when we set out to live with commitment and certainty about our own closely held truth," unquote. As Jodi's told in her story this morning, there are consequences to whatever we come to in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. If we are to honor our search, we are called to be intentional about our daily living, including our spiritual search. It has repercussions for what we say. It has repercussions for what we do, and demands that we take responsibility for the consequences of our actions that can affect others. Although we search for our own sacred truth that gives meaning to our lives, if we don't faithfully respect the search of our fellow searchers and travelers, we can become self-centered, narcissistic, and even destructive. We are all, lest we forget, part of the interdependent web of existence. As part of that connected whole, we must consider how our lives intersect with the others and how we are called to work for their integrity, safety, and security as well as our own. Our Unitarian Universalism calls us to think, reason, and to reflect on all that we encounter in our life. The meaning we give to our experience shapes our mind and our spirit and calls us to act in the world and to act in response to what is happening in the world. And what is happening in our world? It can be said that we are certainly living in very historical times. Since January the 20th, we've seen some horrendous things taking place. In Palestine, the so-called ceasefire has been repeatedly violated by Netanyahu and the Israeli Defense Force in actions that have taken the war there from Gaza to the West Bank. In the once great US of A, the Trump administration has brought about in a few short days changes that are going to drastically and fearfully affect the lives of millions of people over the next few months and the next 4 years. 1,448 days to be precise. So what to do? I can't speak for you, but when I ask, what would Jesus do in my life, I'm faced with his example. He would look at the Trump administration with compassion and a hope that they would do good, but he would also castigate them for the cruel injustices which they have already inflicted on so many people. And when I think of Trump's newly imposed tariffs, my truth and the meaning I give to my life challenges me to be careful about what I purchase in the supermarket, to be aware of where things I purchase come from and where they are made, and if I had the wherewithal, where I would go for my winter getaway. It wouldn't be below the 49th parallel. I conclude with the words of the Bishop Marion Edgar Budd, the Episcopalian Bishop of Washington, D.C., who led the prayer service after the inauguration of President Trump. She courageously challenged the president to be more compassionate, especially to immigrants and members of the LGBTQ2+ community. Needless to say, Bishop Budd's words were met with vitriol, and she was vilified, and she's received death threats. Although not a Unitarian Universalist, her courage reminds me so much of John Biddle. She put into practice what she perceived to be the truth, and she courageously spoke truth to power. May her words, with which she concluded her reflection, resonate in our hearts and our actions for the next 1,448 days. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and to walk humbly with each other and our God. So may it be.
Today's anthem will be performed by Three Rivers. The piece is Holy One, Source of Radiance and Reason by Elizabeth Alexander. And I'll read the text to you now since we don't have the screen. Holy One, a source of radiance and reason, thou whose love endows and animates our lives, we acknowledge thy presence within, among, and beyond us. This text is by Reverend Rob Eller Isaacs, who is a Unitarian Universalist minister. And Elizabeth Alexander says of it that it invokes a divine presence, mysterious but also rational, and celebrates a faith that moves and works within, among, and beyond, stretching outward from an individual's personal spirituality in order to bless the whole world.
I always have to have a Kleenex ready when they're singing. Three Rivers, your voices are like a breath of fresh air. Will the ushers please start passing the baskets at this time? Thank you. This congregation has a long history of care, vitality, and bringing people together to move the arc of justice forward. We've been able to live into our hopes and dreams because of the generosity of those within and beyond this community. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or anywhere else, you are part of this community. We rely on one another to keep this congregation vital and resilient. If you have any questions about how you can give, please go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how you can make a donation or to keep up with your pledge. Our gifts are freely given and gratefully received. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this congregation of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. And now, let us sing together once more. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing Where My True Spirit Onward Leads, which you'll find in the gray hymnal number 324. Before we begin to close this time of worship and reflection, a reminder that food and household items from our grocery support program are available for those who would like some from the room adjacent to Fellowship Hall. Just to note that the grow towers have been taken down for the season, and also that Mia's Indian Cuisine is offering lunch for sale after this service. If you are new here, still feel new, or simply welcome conversation today, please pick up a green mug as you enter Fellowship Hall. Doing so will help others looking forward to good conversation find you. And if you see someone sporting a green mug, please approach them. Ask them about who they are and what drew them here this morning, the start of another great conversation.
Oh, I've left my hymn book. My hymn book, sorry.
Oh, I'll get it.
Now, as we prepare to extinguish our chalice, let us read together the words from Barbara Pescan, found in number 680 of the Grey Hymnal. So if you could turn to number 680, and we read this together. Because of those who came before, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of and in spite of the horizons of their vision, we too dream. Let us go remembering to praise, to live in the moment, to love mightily, to bow to the mystery.
Take care of it after. Thanks. Jen, will you please bless us again by leading us in our closing song, Spirit of Life, which you will find in the Teal Hymnal, hymn 123.
Gray hymnal.
Gray Hymnal, okay. It says Teal here. Gray Hymnal. And we'll sing it through first in English and then en français. So if you will please rise in body or in spirit.
Confusion.
Oh, sorry.
In this world in which untruths are disseminated through the social media without any fact-checking or regard for the real truth, as a searching people, we are challenged to seek authentic truth responsibly, truth that balances freedom and responsibility and that rounds our search for truth and meaning.
We are also people of love, providing a place in this world for our spirit, a place called home. As now we return to the challenge and joy of helping the world come alive in love, let us go forward with love in our hearts, sowing seeds of justice with our hands and peace in our steps.
And may we all have a passionate zest for our world, much gentleness, and may we all be more human to the end. And as the medieval mystic Julian of Norwich said during the Black Plague, when her world was falling apart around her, all shall be well, all shall be well, all manner of things shall be well. Go in peace, my friends, go making peace.
That was wonderful.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you, dear.